All right, fountain pen people, here we are. It's another day. It is Sunday, December 15th, and in the Inkvent calendar, that means we have a new ink to look at. And this one is Sleigh Ride, which is supposed to exhibit extreme sheen. From the label, it looks kind of a peachy color. Let's see what it actually looks like. Get it out here. Sorry about my chair noises and the frog in my throat that seems to have been here for a couple of days. That is not peachy at all. Look at that. Look how dark that is. That's crazy. Well, let's put it into a pen. I'll get that a little bit closer. You can see as it's drying. It's a very dark brownish red. Not sure what color the sheen will be or whether or not this is a good paper for it, but we'll look at a pen real fast. Oops. So this is one that came out this year. I joined the Kickstarter on it. Ensso is a pen company out of Los Angeles, I believe. I'm not sure where the pens are made exactly, but they do often do their pens via Kickstarter. This was no exception. I joined the Kickstarter on it, and it is an interesting pen. It's called the Bolt. Rather simple name, B-O-L-T, Bolt, because it operates by a bolt action here. Those of you who have ballpoint pens will know what I'm talking about, that use this system. Spring-loaded, nib comes out the end, and then it retracts as you do that. This is not the color they came. It came in a silver, titanium color like this pen here. But this is what happens when you take a torch to titanium, makes it dark and purpley. Don't know if that's something that Ensso endorses or not, but I've done it to every single titanium Ensso pen that I have, and I've got a few. Anyway, so the way you get this pen, it's odd. So you understand that there has to be a seal at the base of the pen, otherwise the nib will dry out or it will leak all over the place. Well, the way this one works is there is a two-piece nose cone here that oftentimes comes apart like that, which is unfortunate because it doesn't need to for just filling mechanisms. Anyway, so there's a spring in there. I'm going to put this back together. So the way this works is there's a little seal inside of here that you may or may not be able to see. It's a black silicone seal that has an X cut into it, and the nib pushes through that, and then when the nib is retracted, the X closes back up behind it, and it does. It really does. It's not a gimmick. It actually works. But like you see here, it comes apart fairly easily when you're filling it up with ink. The nib unit in it is somewhat similar to the nib units of like the Vanishing Point by Pilot. At least the nib looks similar to those of you who've seen those, or the copies by the Chinese makers, Majon, Moonman, whatever, the A1, and I guess whatever models they have out there. All right, the way you fill it up is just like any other fountain pen with a converter, and this is a standard Schmidt K5 converter. It came with a K4, which is a cheaper one that just doesn't have this metal collar, and I'll explain why I don't have the original one on here anymore in just a moment. So anyway, you put it in the ink. You can see that. I know the angle's not great, but you just back the piston up, and these Schmidt converters are fantastic. They work very, very well. Oftentimes filling without any air drops at all, air gaps at all, and you can easily fill them completely. And now, wipe the end here. Get some of that ink off because we dipped it down in there. And right there. Now, some close-up look at this. You'll see that the nib is tubular. It wraps around the feed. It's got a little tiny breather hole in the slit and the tipping and all that like it normally does. But then if you look here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little opening right there in the feed. That is where the ink fills from. Is pulling it through there rather than through that tiny breather hole. Most fountain pens are like that. This is no exception. The only branding on this pen is right there. And this is, I believe, either stainless steel or titanium, this sleeve here that everything else is held in. The nib is stainless steel. It writes quite well. But obviously you can't, I mean, while you could write with it like this, it would be very uncomfortable. So let's get it back together into the pen. So you put it back in here with the spring, and then you put this end on here and you screw it down until it's snug. And then this is where it gets kind of weird. I oriented it, I mean, I oftentimes orient it so that when I'm holding the pen, the clip or the bolt don't rest on my hand like they're doing right now. And when I set it, like you can set it in there so that it's aimed that direction, but as you're tightening the screw down, it tends to rotate that. And so usually what you have to do to get the nib back around to where it's comfortable is you usually have to grab it and twist it a little bit. And it's not moving very well. Let me give it a better nudge here. That's good. Now it's lined up. Anyway, so now as I work the bolt and the nib comes out, I can hold it with the clip not digging into the webbing of my thumb there. And it does write, and it does write well. Nice and wet. So this is the Ensso Bolt. And it's a fine nib. It's all titanium, and the ink is Diamine. Oh, what is the name of it again? Sleigh Ride? What was it? Yeah, Sleigh Ride. I'm not sure what this has to do with the Sleigh Ride, this brownish red with bright green sheen, but fun, whatever. And this is Inkvent. Oops, Inkvent. 2024 for December 15th, Sunday. The one thing I will say about this pen, Ensso makes a lot of really nice pens. This one is no exception. It writes well. It's very well made. The engineering is good. However, mine, oh yeah, I don't know why, but mine tends to leak. If I leave it sitting in a pen cup like this, a little bit of ink will come out at the bottom, but you know, it won't be a lot, but it'll just be a little spot or two. But if I shake it, drops come out. And the last converter that was in there, I thought it was the problem because I remember one day I put this down inside of a cloth pen roll like this. In fact, this very one, and it's sitting in here like this. Maybe some of the fabric on the inside of there was touching or just up inside this nose cone a little bit, and it wicked out, and all of the ink drained out of the pen and went into that pen roll. So I can't leave it standing up ever, or the end of the pen just gets full of ink, and I'm not sure why. It's an odd thing. I thought it was part of the air ink interchange problem. I'm still not certain what the issue is. It's a great writing pen. It's nice to have around, except that I can't leave it sitting upright in a cup anywhere. Otherwise, it'll get it all wet. Couldn't put it in my pocket because I wouldn't feel safe that it wouldn't leak on me. But if I leave it like this, it'll be just fine for weeks on end, and it doesn't dry out either. It's sitting there like this. It doesn't dry out. You pick it up, you start writing, and there's no issue. But others may have had better experiences with theirs. I don't know. It's still a decent pen. It just has that one quirk. But it, just have, and I know somebody else who has one whose pen writes really dryly, and so, and no pen is perfect. They all have their own personalities, and I hope that nobody else is having the leaking issue that I am. I know that they've gone into regular production with them, and they just released another Kickstarter, I think, in making this in brass, which would be kind of interesting too. Anyway, I hope you have a good one. I'll see you soon.